Jared Goff and Brad Holmes have confirmed that the Lions have actually began contract negotiations with Goff on a possible extension. We'll talk about what was said and how the NFL draft could impact those plans right here on the DSN News Desk.
Never fall back. We will stay right where we at.
What's good, Detroit Sports Nation? I am Eric Vincent, your host here at the DSN News Desk. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your time and support because we got some pretty big quotes that I want to talk about from Brad Holmes and Jared Goff about Jared Goff's contract with the Detroit Lions. To me, I think this is a very important storyline that we're going to have to follow for the next few years. So let's peel back some of the details right now. This is a story on our website, DetroitSportsNation.com, written up by W.G. Brady. This is actually per Dave Burkett of the Free Press, where he states that the Detroit Lions are trending towards giving Jared Goff a long-term contract extension within the next 15 months. 15, that's a very interesting timeline. We'll talk all about why in just 1 second, because he does have a tweet as well where Brad Holmes, who was on 97, won the ticket. He was quoted saying that the Lions have had dialogue with Jared Goff and his agents on a new contract and are in a good place with that. This is interesting for quite a few reasons to me. Now, if you remember back to the last time we talked about Jared Goff and his long-term situation with the Lions, I believe this was back at the owners' meeting where it was quoted the Lions haven't even discussed a long-term contract with Jared Goff or a short-term one. Apparently, negotiations hadn't even kicked off at that point. But what has just happened since the owners' meeting up until right now? What's happened since then? The NFL draft. And the Lions, with one of the most, I think, productive drafts in the NFL, regardless of how I feel about the first one, I believe they had a great draft, and one of their biggest picks was one of the biggest sleepers, getting quarterback Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round. So that maybe could have changed a few things, wouldn't you say? Because if you look at Dave Burkett's timeline, just under that quote where he talks about Brad Holmes, he also says the Hooker addition clearly doesn't change their plans about Goff going forward, at least anytime soon, which is fair. And I think that's confirmed at this point, because even with Hendon Hooker being drafted to this football team, Jared Goff is still in a position where he has the leverage of the immediate future in his hand. He's not going to be under any pressure in this season. It's going to be Nate Sudfeld behind him. They may sign or bring up one more quarterback. I believe they just signed an undrafted quarterback as well. I forgot the name. If you remember, please hit me up in the comment section. But they just brought in some help behind him, but it's not going to be an immediate threat, at least until Hendon Hooker is not hurt anymore. He's still injured. He's still nursing his ACL injury. And for that reason, that's going to buy Jared Goff some time to play comfortable without any worry. Now, that's for the immediate future right now. Hendon Hooker's 25 years old. He doesn't turn 26 until January. And on the recovery of this injury, he's not expected to see the field at all this coming season. What he does after that is going to be a question mark, because while Jared Goff has the leverage of the immediate future in his hand, his contract is only for 2 seasons. So he has this season and then the one after. That's it. And with a contract potentially being done the next 15 months and it being a long-term agreement, what is that going to look like? Is it 3 years? Would it be 4? Would it be 5? Is he trying to make sure he cashes out to get that Derek Carr-esque or Daniel Jones type deal? We don't know. There were no figures or no numbers stated in the quotes, if I'm not mistaken, on the article. It didn't say if it was a 4-year deal. It didn't say how much the money was for. But based on the quarterbacks who just signed, the guys I just named, Goff is probably going to be teetering around that area in terms of how much he's going to get paid. He ain't going to get Lamar Jackson money. He ain't going to get Jalen Hurts money, even though y'all tried to act like he was better than Lamar Jackson. But that's beyond the point. He's still going to get the money he deserves. But how much and how long it's for, I believe, is undecided. I don't know how much I buy into the timeline of the 15 months. Like, I just don't buy it for right now. You just drafted a quarterback, and you drafted him in the 3rd round in a position where He's not at the back where you're thinking, okay, well, we're not really expecting him to do much of anything. This isn't a guy with the low ceiling that'll just hold a clipboard for a minute and be like a Chase Daniel type of quarterback. He's not that type of guy. Hendon Hooker has some pretty good upside. And if he's lighting it up in practice, if he's coming back strong from that injury, if he's providing playmaking dynamics that Jared Goff does not bring, and if that offensive foundation stays intact for him as well, this may not be Jared Goff's job for the long term. And I don't think that's a hot take to say. Considering the Lions have now put a very valuable pick into a quarterback that can take time to heal, that can take time to learn the speed of the game and get acclimated before he's thrown into the fire like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson are going to be. He doesn't have that pressure, and they don't have the offensive resources around them like what he has here in Detroit. So that's completely different, and I think the expectations for him will be different in that regard as well. Now, he doesn't necessarily have to come in and be a super elite quarterback in order to replace Jared Goff, because it's not just a physical tools game that they're looking at. They're not just looking at skill sets between these two. As everyone has been saying, they didn't want to blow up the Lions cap by paying guys like Lamar Jackson. Well, if you have to pay Jared Goff $50 million, you think that's going to make your cap situation any easier? No, not at all. So you have a guy now like Hendon Hooker who puts a little bit more pressure on Goff for the long term. He's going to be able to play throughout this season without worrying about getting benched, without worrying about getting replaced. None of that's going to happen for this season. Goff is the guy for this season. Ain't nobody arguing that. Nobody's pushing towards that, and nobody should be saying otherwise. I'm certainly not. But the long term is not solidified at this moment, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be at this point. I believe, again, I trust the word of Dave Burkett, but it's okay to take everything with a little bit of a side eye. It's like, okay, 15 months is quite specific. Again, that's a year after this one, and then a little bit of change in between that. And then coming into the season after that, where a lot could be on the line if we have a healthy Hendon Hooker ready to go. And again, he's lighting it up in practice. I'm sure they're going to give him opportunities to play with the ones, to get some time with J-Mo Williams. Like, we're going to see some opportunity for him to gel with this team. I don't think he's coming in just to hold the clipboard. This guy has a lot of upside. He can bring an interesting dynamic to this team. And if the Lions are not looking to go stupid with breaking their cap, which has really been the Brad Holmes type philosophy anyway, I don't see this long-term extension that's going to be agreed to by the Lions. Again, what is it going to consist of? Do you consider a 3-year extension long-term? I don't think that's a long-term deal, because you can still get out of it after 2, depending on how they finagle and sell it. But I think at this point, maybe he could be looking at 4 to 5. That's what I would be thinking in the long term, because Jared Goff he's not even 30 years old yet himself. He's still relatively young for quarterback years. You're seeing quarterbacks play longer anyway. So at this point, he could be looking at his last chance to get that mega million type deal. And I ain't mad at him. Go ahead and get your money. But if the Lions are going to follow the philosophy I've been hearing all offseason of not trying to overspend and not trying to break the bank for one guy, you're not going to do it for Jared Goff either, especially when you have a quarterback waiting that you just drafted. It makes it pretty interesting in terms of what the Lions are going to do. Again, some of y'all may think this is a redundant conversation. I don't. And this is going to be something we talk about for a while. Until we see ink on a paper by the Lions and Jared Goff that have a number and a contract term set, we're going to have to be speculating about this, especially as details unfold. We didn't just pull this out of nowhere. They talked about it, so we got to get into it. But that's what I see out of this. I think this is going to be something that we talk about for a while until we see a contract agreed to, until we see a definite move or a definite quote set. This is going to be something intriguing with the Lions. Jared Goff has his time solidified for right now, but what the future holds, that's a mystery right now. And it's going to be an interesting one to follow. But talk to me in the comment section. I'd love to hear your feedback. What did you hear and think about these quotes from Jared Goff and Brad Holmes? Do you think the Lions should sign him to a long-term extension? Or do you think they should just hold off and wait for now? Talk to me. I'd love to hear your feedback. Make sure you like the video as well and subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Try to make our way up to 8,000 subscribers. We can do that with your love and support. We would greatly appreciate it. Make sure you tap in on our social media as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the above. Search and follow Detroit Sports Nation and lock in with me as well at I am Eric Vincent. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here. Go Lions, and I'll see you again soon with another update right here from the DSN News Desk. Peace.